Brian's mine.
You hate seeing me happy. No war, no pollution. I am saving the planet. I must devour Craig.
This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. And what I'm looking at today is 2026's Touch Me, directed by Addison Heiman. Touch Me is what I would describe as a horror comedy. And by my reckoning, one of the best horror comedies is Tom Holland's Fright Night. Now, the thing about Fright Night is that it works because the acting is really good. The movie is taken seriously. And what humor there is comes from the interaction of those characters. There's nothing in the way of pratfalls or comedic weirdness in the movie, but it's funny based on the situation the characters find themselves in and how they respond to the situation. It also helps that the characters are fairly likable. It revolved around a young person named Charlie Brewster who came to learn that his neighbor was a vampire and he had to do whatever he could to stop it. In that effort, he tried to enlist a fading movie star to help him, played by Roddy McDowall. And as I said, Fright Night was very well acted, and that made the situation, a very absurd situation by the way, work really well. Touch Me works by a similar logic, but it has problems. Part of the problem is that the writing is not great. And by the way, I should mention, Addison Heiman wrote as well as directed the movie. Lou Taylor Pucci is amazing. He has this thing where breakdancing is a form of meditation for him, so there are numerous scenes of him breakdancing. And it's the weirdest thing, but it's probably the most interesting thing about the movie. And this is probably the biggest problem with Touch Me, for me. It's that it's not fun. It's a horror comedy that's not funny most of the time. It's a horror comedy that's not terribly scary most of the time. There's some moments of some interesting practical effects, but on a whole, this movie is just kind of lifeless, which is a pity because as far as I'm concerned, I could trace all the movie's problems to the writing. It's very well acted, it's very well performed, but the writing is just so stagnant. There may be stuff going on under the surface, but on the top, where everyone sees, ain't nothing happening. It's just still. And this movie is very much still, which is interesting because Touch Me is executive produced by Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, the guys who did Something in the Dirt, The Endless, and many other movies revolving around weird phenomena and strange events. So that aspect of it, I get. I can see perhaps what drew them to this project on some level, but once again, it does not work. The whole point of a horror comedy, for me, is that it's an enjoyable thing to watch. You're getting your thrills, you're getting your chills, all the important shit you're getting through that movie. And this movie just does not do it. And another thing is that a lot of people would call Touch Me Lovecraftian. And I don't necessarily agree with that at all. There are certain ideas and tropes from Lovecraft's novels that appear in this movie, such as Brian's true form, which is tentacled, and just kind of, well, a lot of tentacles really. And the idea that this creature is seeking to perhaps conquer the world. That's interesting in and of itself, but it's not necessarily Lovecraftian because there's nothing really in the way of mood. It is not very atmospheric. It's well shot. It looks good, but it's not very atmospheric. It is not really, by my reckoning, very interesting. If it were streaming somewhere, I would watch it, but I would not pay to see it, which is a pity because it's a smaller production and they deserve their flowers too. But what this movie, what Touch Me, tries to do is way too ambitious for Addison Heiman. Namely, to have a funny movie that is also terrifying. Touch Me just doesn't succeed at that job. And that job is crucial to the movie working. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like, follow, or buy me a coffee. Peace.